Alright guys, this is my second night and I thought, I reckon I could just go ahead and complete this entire thing, and so that's what I did. I found this other part here, so it seems as if it's been traveling at Flight FX 134, Memphis to Winnipeg again. It was traveling at 34,000 feet for many kilometers until it decided to just drop to 30,000 feet, and then made its decline back down towards the airport at Winnipeg. So obviously this was the flight here. I used the bar, of course, to be able to go out there and locate the particular locations as to where the height changes was. And notice over here, you see this. This is the shadow cast of the twilight as I guess the sun is going away. So it must have been 8 a.m. 12 p.m. I don't know. Anyway, so its entry into Winnipeg is a little bit odd. So I did have to sort of plot that out with a little bit of mucking around. But ultimately, I got the distance between Winnipeg and Memphis, and started to do some negative distances just in case. That way, I didn't have to go out there and do it from Memphis. I would just find the ultimate distance and then work my way backwards. So as you can see on Winnipeg here, I started the Google measure thing from the point of landing at Winnipeg, and came up to the point where it started to bank in for its landing. So I've got all these points here, and it rotated up again over the top of these paddocks over here, and flew all the way over to what looks like a large train station, like Symington Yards, and flew all the way over to this junction over here, and then all the way over to this point. And this is right on the border of the states, so this is roughly where it started to really do some drops. But its first initial drop from 34,000 feet is just above Minneapolis over here, and then it leveled out at 30,000 feet over what seems like Pine River or something like that, and was cruising at 30,000 feet over the top of all of this land here. So it traveled into Canada. It traveled across the border and traveled in Canada at a cruising height of 30,000 feet. So that's the pathway that I took there. And as you can see on here, so part 2 here, 34,000 feet. The ultimate distance was 1,755 kilometers in distance, and at all these change points. So when it dropped from 28,000 to 0, it was about 14 kilometers out. When it first reached 28,000 feet, it was 22 kilometers out. When it started its decline from 30,000 to 28,000, it was 185 kilometers away from its point of airport. And the first point that it hit its plateau of 30,000 feet was 467. So obviously this area here between 467 and 185, that was the part where it was just cruising at 30,000 feet across the Canadian border. And the point when it decided to break its 34,000 feet was 534 kilometers before the final point. And as you can see here, I got Gordon, we got Road 72 North, I've got Whitemouth Lake, Pine River, and Shepherd. So over top of Shepherd, over here, where's Shepherd? Shepherd over here. So over the top of Shepherd in is it? No, that's not Wisconsin, is it? Is it Wisconsin? I'm not too sure. It's over there. Anyway, if it's in Wisconsin, that was where it started to do its decrease and into landing. So that's all the data points here. Let's have a look at my thing. So this is obviously this is a part that I showed on last night's video on part 1, and I've got a little bit of name there. So we've got Memphis. So this is all the inclines. Now this point over here, I've made it all in the maroon color. So this is when it was tracking at 34,000 feet, just continuously flat. I shouldn't use the word flat, should I? That was when it was maintaining altitude is the correct meaning. So this is when it first dropped down to 30,000 feet, and then it maintained 30,000 feet. And this is where it dropped from 30,000 feet. It must have crossed the Canadian border around about here. Oh God, I hate when it does that. All the way down to the point where it started to do all of its banks and turns into the airport. So it was banking at this point here. So as you can see, bing, 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 bing. That was some of this time here. And so that's Winnipeg. So the slope over on this side, personally, I don't really care. I don't really care, to be honest. I'll tell you what, I'll get it anyway. Let's have a bit of a look. I'll simplify it from here. It's a bit of a shortcut one. Oh God. Up to about here, it's looking about 3.2 degrees. So nothing really all that special in comparison to what we discovered the first night. There we go. 3.2 deg. Alright, so that's 3.2. That was the incline. What I decided to do, obviously, in this particular model, just so that I wouldn't have a short video talking about just simply the downscale, is I actually superimposed a large Earth radius, and I clipped the amount of curvature that I would have from there, and I brought it down here, and then I used an arc tool just to make it even smoother, because when I sampled my my angles up here, in fact, the fact that it's chamfered this so many times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chamfers, may have even given me a bit of a dud number now that I think about it. That's a bit of a shame. It's a shame it didn't chamfer it 100 times instead of 8. Oh well, 6 chamfers on one thing. So I may have even got a dud curve. But either way, I've got a result anyway, because I was supposed to get the correct position, but something tells me I'm going to get a sharper angle. So this is the curve that I managed to go and get out of that particular sample. So as you can see, I sharpened it up. I did a bit of a clean arc, and then I copied the center of radius all the way down from here, and I strung all my lines down to that center of radius. Now I did cheat just a little bit, because I really didn't want to have to go out there and meticulously get the measurements right for something which was just as simple as a decline. So I just strung the lines across, and I just strung them up. If I had a bit more accurate, I think the lines would be just a little bit here, a little bit there. It's not really going to matter in the whole grand scheme of things, so I kind of cheated in that manner, but it still kind of looks roughly right anyway. So, whether or not it's just here or just there, I don't really think it really matters in the grand scheme of things. But this is how it looks on this particular curve. As you can see here, you got to understand that when it comes to the curve, we're talking about gravity pulls you straight down from the point where you are. So every single time you move forward, you got a new center of gravity towards the center of the planet. And that means that as you are rolling over this particular curve, you know, you're always resetting your center of gravity according to your position. But this is obviously the sharpest incline. That was where it really pushed up quite hard, and this is where it was a mild increase, and this is where it is an even more milder increase. And as you can see, when you look at this, right, when you look at this bottom curve, it's so hard to tell. It really is just so hard to tell. I mean, the sharpness of that is far more sharper than what this curve is at all. So that's how, you know, this curve doesn't really make that much of a difference, especially seeing as, like I said, the gravity is always pulling you from wherever the center point is. The curve looks more pronounced, obviously, as you go over the center part, because you get a certain amount of slope. But still, I mean, you know, you're recentering yourself all the time. I think the ultimate question is this curve over as dramatic as what it is when you're increasing like that? Looking at that versus looking at how much that tilts up, I don't really think so. It really is minute. I mean, you just look at this. I mean, I think it might have straightened itself out a little bit, just trying to compute with my computer. But the curve is not really all that huge. I mean, it's always constantly adapting here. And of course, here is that point here. Like maybe look at this. Like this is the decrease from 34,000 feet to 30,000 feet. And when you look at the wedge on that, it's just hard to even notice the difference. I mean, just not being able to even notice the difference kind of plays into the effect of just how big the scale truly is. And I mean, I tried to get this one maintained because this seems to be a fairly this one was banked. This one was a consistent 30,000 feet right here, and as you can see, this angle. I mean, if you line up that top with this line, you'd almost say that decrease is similar to 3 or 4 times its length on that angle there. So if you were to plank that over to here, that would be roughly the amount of slope there. And as you can see, it just creeps in right here to the point where you're landing. So, you know, all the thrill that you get in your guts when you're trying to fall down up and down on a roller coaster or on an airplane is you can't notice it on this particular map. The only way that you notice it is in relation to the line below. So you know whether or not you're getting closer to this line or not, or plateauing. That's all. It's really a local feeling. When you're in the aeroplane and it points down for a few minutes, that's when you notice that drop. But across many minutes, or even potentially I'm assuming this took 40 minutes or something like that. I don't 100% know. I just don't think you notice it. You just don't notice it. So, look, that's what the whole flight looks like. That's how it's just skimming over the top. So, yeah, that's how close these aeroplanes are. And I mean, if you think about it, when people are trying to say, how can you see an aeroplane? How come you can't see the aeroplanes from space? Well, the airplane would have to be really, really, really tiny right here. Literally, it's about 500 meters or something like that, which is on par with what this thing was here, this little line. So, yeah, that's about 400. Let's say it's 400. So I'll go up to the very, very top. and I'll draw a line 400 long. I mean, you can't even see it. Let's see if I can put a circle on it so that you can actually physically see it, because it's just too hard to see. There you go. That's what they're. Look at that. Look at the scale of this thing. See that? That's how big the aeroplane looks in comparison to this curve. See? Look at the size of that curve, and look at the size of this little aeroplane. I have to zoom in just to see a small quadrant of it. Let me paint it black so it's a little bit more easy to see. It's like a speck. It's tiny. It's tiny. Now, it kind of makes me actually think one thing. You know, the ISS is supposed to be about 400 odd kilometers above the thing, just like this one. So 400,000 units. Let's go. 400,000 units. That's where the ISS is. And it is also probably around about, let's say we've got 200 here. God. Let me draw a circle in. Oh God, that's how small it is. My goodness. This is the true scale of this sort of stuff. Everyone must visualize this sort of stuff in real scale. You got to understand how small this shit is. So yeah, that's 400 kilometers high. This is how high the ISS is above the Earth's surface. And you're telling me that from here, you can see this tiny little speck over here. That little thing. I mean, look at that. How are you going to see that? You just can't. It's too damn small. So, yeah. There you go. Didn't think I'd be throwing an ISS in here, but I think it's good to visualize this sort of stuff. So, yeah. That's generally how it looks. So, yeah. I hope that was slightly insightful and interesting to watch, and I don't know if anyone's got any other ideas. Just throw them at me, and I'll play around. If it's fun enough, I'll punch it in. All right. Thanks for listening.